Okay, so I'm going to lay out a symmetrical design. I've taped my paper down so it stays put. I basically want to make a square in the center of this page. Right now my page is 16 inches by 12 inches. Okay, and I'm going to make a 10-inch square in the middle of this page. Okay, and I think a 10-inch square will fit in your drawing pads as well. Okay, so 16 inches, I need about 3 inches on either side, so I'm just going to make a few little marks here with my pencil. I'm using an HB pencil right now. That's sort of in the middle between your light and dark pencils. When I go to take this design, what I want to avoid doing is flipping this around in case I've done anything, change anything with that. So I'll go straight up to here, find the corner of this, okay, and I'll put those marks on the top as well. And then I'll just draw lines to connect that. Okay, so that'll give me a 10-inch span. I don't want to put too much pressure on the pencil. I really want a light line. In the end, I want my lines to disappear. I'm going to replace those lines with paint, but I need a light guide that I can follow. So with that, make sure you don't put a lot of pressure on there. You'll be gouging into the paper, and that's going to collect your pigment, and it's going to cause problems. So a nice light pressure, just enough so that you can see. What you'll do is after that, you'll even erase some of that out. So I have 10 inches across here now. I want 10 inches in the middle. So I've got 12. That'll give me 1 inch on top, 1 inch on the bottom. So I'm just going to make a couple of marks. I'll go over to the corner of the page here. So I can go right across the page. Okay, so I take 1 inch off here, and then 1 inch here. Again, I move down here, don't flip around, move straight down. 1 inch. Even when I'm taking a reading off of this ruler, I don't look at it from an angle, I look straight over top. What I'll do is I'll hold the ruler up with the short side with just a little bit gap of paper here. So that way, as I line up my measurements, I can kind of see if it's crooked or if it's straight. So, I have two ways to reference whether I'm getting an even straight line across there. One is that I'm lining up to marks where I've measured them. Two is that that space is even, and that sort of verifies for me that that's right. Press the ruler down so it doesn't move, and then just a nice light line across. I should probably be making darker lines. You might not be able to see those. So I'm going to make darker lines for you guys to see once I have my square. Okay, so there's a square in there, 10 inches by 10 inches. That's what you want to have. Okay, I'm going to darken this up because I think you might have trouble seeing them on the camera or on the film. Now, an important thing in design is the starting point for this. Again, we're looking for a symmetrical design. Now we have symmetry and asymmetry, and I'll show you a few examples of that. Asymmetry is basically, symmetry is basically the same from one side to another. Creates a balance. Everything's the same on one side as it is on the other, or in this case we break it into 4 spaces. It's the same in every space, so it doesn't change. Asymmetrical design will balance out in a different way. So you might have a larger shape on one side, but 2 smaller shapes to make up for the weight of it on the other side. And so things are very different from one side to the other. And then basically it strikes a balance. The goal for both is to strike a balance. But what you have is in a lot of more complex artworks is you have parts of the design that are symmetrical, parts of the design that are asymmetrical, parts of the design that are out of balance, and then other parts of the design that are designed to bring it back into balance. So you have a real complex sort of network of compositional elements working together. Once we have the square, what we want to do is we want to kind of find the center of the square. You can always find the center of the square by going from corner to corner. So get your ruler right out on the corner. And again, you would do it nice and light. I'm doing it heavily so you can see it. That corner to that corner. Press down the ruler to that corner to that corner. This is one of the most important aspects of your design. It locates the center, it breaks it into 4 distinctly even parts. Now we're going to do something else that we should do with almost every design we do, is we'll find the center point of the center axis of it. And that, what I mean by that is if this is 10 inches across, right at 5 inches, that's the middle. Okay, we want to find the middle down at the bottom. 5 inches. And we'll connect it. And it should run right through the middle and make adjustments if it doesn't. Center axis is critical in almost everything you design. It gives you one side or the other. It's how you establish balance, it's how you find the middle of things. This is 2-dimensional design, but if we turn something in 3 in so that we see the depth of it, the center line still becomes a very important part of how we understand the orientation of each object. We do the same thing top to bottom. That's your starting point. Okay. You can see how that creates a focal point in the middle. Designs will bring the eye in towards the center of this. Okay. Now we're going to break it up more. We're going to give ourselves a real grid. Now this is why you want to do it in really lightly, so you don't, later you'll erase these out, and then you don't want them to even be seen. You want the color to be the edge. And so again, you'll do them much more lightly than I'm doing them. Okay. So what I'm going to do as I'd go down here every inch. 1, make it a little more obvious to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Same thing over here. Look straight over top. This is my guide, really. Now this is only your guide. This is really the square that you work within. All of these lines that you've created in here create a grid network, and so you can kind of use it to guide yourself. In the end, you can take some of these out and they don't necessarily have to be part of the design. What you want to be careful about is that whatever I do in this corner, in this like 4th here, I do in this 4th here. If I do it here, I do it there, and so on. So I work all around it. Okay. I'll start with maybe a circle type shape in the middle. Just find like maybe something round. We'll put it in the middle, and we use this in here to center it. Good enough. And now you can be very random with this. You can switch it up a little bit. I'm going to kind of do something else here. I think I'm going to do this. No, I'll do this in the corner. Okay, so I'm using these lines to guide it. so I know exactly where it's going to be here. So when I go over here, I do the same thing. I use this line and this line, get it up to about there. I see it goes about this far, and I can measure this far into the thing. Okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, but get it close. Get used to taking measurements. This line and this line. This line and this line. Okay, that gives me a nice variety of lines. When I go to color it in, or when I go to add pigment, I don't necessarily have to make a circle per se. I can take parts of it. I could color in this part, this part, this part, and this part. Or I could color in this part of the space. So I can kind of make changes as I go along. If I like certain aspects of it now, I can erase some lines out and make it exactly the way I want to work with it. Okay. But that's your starting point. So once you've finished your design and you're ready to start adding pigment, work through the design with your eraser. Be really gentle with the eraser, because if you're rough, you will cause blemishes on the surface of the paper, and that will cause problems when you're laying down pigment. You just want a guide that you can follow and you can see. Eventually this design might sort of disappear underneath the color, so you don't want it so carved in, so dark that it's going to interfere with what you see. It's a guide rather than the design itself. So be careful, be thorough, take your time doing this. Erasing is just as important as laying it out. If you take your time doing it, your design will be really, really nice.